on next as we keep up the pace at the moment and looking forward to this one. It's a journey into the future, my friends, and we have a perfect guide to take us into the future. See how tech is changing our lives fundamentally and will continue to do so. So, the Pride of Mexico, a Mexican physicist, data scientist, TV host, educator, and entrepreneur. The first, so a groundbreaker no less, the first Mexican woman to earn a PhD in physics from Stanford, no less. She was approached by the Finnish government to build the country's first quantum computer, no less. She's been honored with multiple honorees, recognitions, awards around the globe. She is a public speaker in much demand. She's also a well-known TV presenter, currently appearing on Weird Earth on the Weather Channel, and has been selected, no less, by Wired magazine as part of the most inspiring women of the decade list. We're blessed to have her here in Dubai. She's the CEO of Soul for You. From Mexico, please welcome Dr. Deborah Benaviche.
Thank you to Chitan Choudhury, to PK Gulati, and to His Excellency Mohammed bin Talia for the invitation. It's an honor for me to be here. So I'd like to start with a story about me growing up. I was this little girl that you're seeing in the picture, growing up in Mexico City. And I grew up in a conservative community that sadly discouraged young women from pursuing careers in science, especially mathematics and physics, because they were for men. So from a very young age, I was extremely curious and inquisitive. But I was told that, my mother even told me, I should hide my love for physics because no boy would ever be interested in me, and I probably couldn't ever marry, which almost happened. And so I grew up hiding this curiosity, and I grew up in a household that had a beautiful aspect to it, which was that it celebrated failure. Every Friday night when we had dinner with the family, my father encouraged us to say not only what we loved during the week, but also what we failed at. That was a symbol of victory, because failing at something means that we try something new, that we expand our skills and our curiosity, and it makes us brave. And that's what science needs. It doesn't need memorization for the right formula or the right answer. It needs us to be brave and not perfect, which is most of the times how a lot of young girls are not brought up to be. We are told that we should appear perfect. And many times we don't want to risk not being perfect, and so we choose careers that come easily to us. So I learned that. And I learned that my curiosity and my perseverance would take me all the way. So when I was growing up, my counselors in school told me that there was a career that I could pick that was more feminine. It wasn't physics, it was philosophy. And of course they asked questions about the universe and where we're from and all that, so it's more appropriate for a girl like you. And so they recommended, and I entered university to study philosophy. And in Mexico, we have the European system, which means I could only study one topic, philosophy and nothing else. So behind everyone's back, I was reading the mysterious and obscure stories about physicists like Tycho Brahe, who was a Danish astronomer who Kepler derived his formula of planetary motion from Tycho. And I was reading all these stories thinking to myself, you know, maybe I'll be like Tycho Brahe, locked up in a tower and antisocial and not having many friends, but at least I'll have my meticulous observations to keep me company. And that kept me going. I said, hopefully I won't lose my nose like Tycho Brahe did in a duel. And he actually made his own copper nose that he exchanged for galas, and he wore a gold one then. So all of that to say that after 2 years of philosophy, I was still incredibly curious and passionate about pursuing a career in physics. So behind everyone in my family and my teachers, I applied to schools in the US. But I also knew that my family could not possibly pay the high fees of an American university compared to what they cost in Mexico. So I was very fortunate that I received a letter from Brandeis University, a small school in Massachusetts, stating that my passion was jumping out of my application and the paper, that if I took some extra tests and I wrote another essay, they could consider me for a full scholarship that they give to 2 international students every year. I won the scholarship and I attended. And there, in my first semester, I had the courage of finally taking my first formal physics class. But it was a very basic class, a large auditorium like this one. I was all the way in the back, and I was shy because I didn't even remember algebra. I had no confidence. I had been told all my life that physics was not for me, and that it was for geniuses, and that I could not do it. I befriended a gentleman by the name of Rupesh Oja. And Rupesh was a wonderful graduate student from India, and the first person who believed in me. He said my eyes would light up every time I asked him questions about the planets and quantum mechanics and statistical mechanics. It was just so fascinating for me. And one day we were walking in Harvard Square, and I looked into Rupesh's eyes, and I had tears in my eyes, and I said, Rupesh, I know I probably won't be able to achieve this, but I want to try to do physics. I don't want to die without trying. So Rupesh got up and called his advisor at Brandeis University, who was the chair of the undergraduate student committee, and he said to me, as soon as I went to his office, he handed me a book, which was an alien language for me at the time. It's called Div, Grad, and Curl, Vector Calculus in 3 Dimensions. And he said, we've done this because my problem was that I had a scholarship as a transfer student from Mexico for only 2 years, and the physics major normally takes 4 years. So he handed me this book, and he said, if in 2 months you're able to master this material, we'll let you skip through the first 2 years of the physics bachelor's program so that you can finish with your scholarship. So this man, Rupesh, decided to mentor me and devoted his entire summer to tutoring me, and we didn't have much time, so it was Saturday, derivatives, Sunday, integrals, Monday, first 3 chapters of classical mechanics, and so on, until he dropped me in my junior year, which is one before the last year, and I tried not to burn too many capacitors in my electronics lab, and I ended up succeeding, and I graduated with highest honors from Brandeis University with both a physics and a philosophy degree. Thank you. After that, I went back to Mexico, and there I enrolled in the master's program. And I remember I was still in my 20s, and my sister said, you know, being that you're already a spinster, I encourage you to try to date people, even if you don't like them that much. And I realized that that was definitely not an environment that fit my kind of dreams. I had big dreams. So again, I went to my advisors in Mexico, and I said, well, I applied to several universities. My curiosity just cannot be satisfied here, and the kinds of experiments I want to do, I have to do them elsewhere. And I read that Steve Chu, who won the Nobel Prize in '97 and who later was the Secretary of Energy during Obama's administration, was the first person ever to manipulate a single strand of DNA. Yes, before him, every DNA that we ever analyzed was in culture. That is many, many, many strands in a little solution. You couldn't really know its mechanical properties, its physical, how it recoils, how it bends into this molecule. It was incredible. And so I told my advisor in Mexico, you know, I want to go, and I applied. I have a Mexican government scholarship, and I applied to Stanford. I saw this guy on the internet named Steve Chu, and he's doing fascinating stuff. And my advisor's jaw dropped. He said, "What? Do you realize he just won the Nobel Prize?" I said, "No. I didn't know. I'm not shy by any means, but I probably wouldn't have written such a casual email like, hey, I want to work with you." And so Steve Chu admitted me directly to his lab, and I worked there. Eventually, things didn't exactly work out with Steve because I didn't like working in a basement doing experiments. I decided that I wanted to become a theoretical physicist, so I switched my career to my advisor here, another Nobel Prize winner, Bob Laughlin, who won the Nobel for the fractional quantum Hall effect. So I became very, very passionate about the theory of quantum and how atomic and subatomic particles work. And Joe Keller up there is a mathematician that I collaborated with, and I ended up doing computational simulations of quantum. And then below him is my dad, may he rest in peace, that actually, I remember just like all my girlfriends in Mexico were praying to, for their parents to be there at their wedding and all that. For me, I was thinking and hoping so much that my parents that didn't quite understand what I was doing would actually be at my PhD defense. And they did see that, and it was a very emotional moment. I graduated, and I was told that I became the first Mexican woman to earn a PhD in physics from Stanford. And with that, with all the struggle that took, came a huge responsibility to pay it forward. Because it all started with Rupesh, this man, this mentor from India. He grew up in Darjeeling, which I'm picturing here, in the mountains in India. And there was an old man who used to climb up to his town and teach him the tabla, the musical instrument, math and English. And whenever they wanted to pay him, the old man said, "No, the only way you could ever pay me back is if you do this with someone else in the world." And that's how my mission in life began, to pay it forward and inspire and encourage other minorities, and especially young women who would like to pursue careers in STEM. So I advise now governments and companies into the future of technology and how we can create more successful stories like mine. How can we encourage more women and more minorities to create amazing companies that solve the problems of today? This is one of my favorite projects. We live in a connected world. We're no longer living in an era where our phone is our only device. We have cyborgs, people who have chips inside them that can perform things and communicate miles away with a computer. And this project was done about 10 years ago. Basically, the local government in Seattle and in New York wanted to know what happens to trash after it goes away. So they put GPS chips very much like the ones inside your cell phones, and this is what happened. You see, after a couple of weeks, the movement of trash was erratic. It went everywhere. But after a few months, there were clear local economies being formed because alkaline batteries were later transformed to be recharged and resold in Africa. And print cartridges, they were disassembled, and then they go to Mexico, where I grew up, and they were reused and resold. Oops, sorry. But now we are in 2023, and we have advanced a lot from then. We have pretty good data and data practices and governance. We have good infrastructure, and we're pretty good on the algorithm and modeling of things. When people ask me about the future, I used to imagine that it would be like the Jetsons. But I don't have to imagine it anymore because it's here. We have Lilium, a German company that actually manufactures planes, little jets that can take off and land vertically, and they're doing transport within cities, very much comparing their speeds and all that. They're electric vehicles and planes, and they don't consume that much energy, and they're noiseless. So it's quite an amazing feat. So we're already in the Jetsons. Oh, sorry. Now, I give advice to governments and companies to choose between three different types of strategies to build with all the novel technologies that we have around, whether it's AI, quantum computing, machine learning, etc. Growth is the first strategy, operations, or customer behavior and customer engagement. The first one with growth is creating new business models. For example, Rolls-Royce used to sell hardware. Well, they're no longer a hardware company. This is the largest engine ever built by humans, and it's called the jet engine. It's, of course, a turbine for airplanes, but now they embed General Electric sensors in this jet engine that are the size of a human hair, about 120 microns, that test and constantly report on the temperature and pressure and conditions of the turbine, of the engine. And so now they don't sell you, you don't have to disassemble the engine every 2,000 hours of use. They can promise you power by the hour, and they promise 10,000 hours of power. We have intelligent streets which are being built, and already the government of Minnesota is connecting sensors in traditional and automated vehicles that connect with stations and can in real time implement more efficient and optimized routing of traffic. And we also have the models for operation that increase efficiency on how you operate a company. Shell is a magnificent example because they used to take 5 years to inspect a pipeline, an oil refinery. 5 years. And now, with the help of AI, pictures, and image recognition software, they can do it in 1 month. So they run their operations much more efficiently. And finally, governments can also interact with the public and engage the public for more loyalty, like voting, and engaging changing customer behavior, consumer behavior. So I worked for the New York Times, and we not only figured out through data what makes certain customers drop the subscription, but how to engage with them. I'm going to end by saying that I work in quantum computing, and I'm very specifically interested in using quantum for climate change, whether it's manufacturing electrical batteries better or developing new healthcare medicines. I just want to finish by saying that technology alone will not get us anywhere. Progress only comes when people are involved. Thank you so much for your attention.